eFolder and your host for today's webinar. Welcome to the eFolder Partner Chat. This webinar series brings together leading eFolder partners for business-oriented discussions. Today's presentation is Generating Big Bucks Through Branding, how MSPs benefit from branding their service offerings. Today we are joined by Antonio Stroman, President of the Brass Effect. Let's first cover a few housekeeping items before going into today's agenda. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be made available on eFolder's YouTube channel. We will also make copies of the slides available to those who registered for the event. With over 130 folks registered for today's session, we have put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it on your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Let's go through today's agenda. Today's webinar follows a logical flow. After introducing our guest, Antonio, and his company, we will discuss the challenges that managed service providers face, especially in areas such as cloud services. We will then go through an overview about what branding really is and why it is so critical to the success of small businesses, MSPs in particular. Antonio will then guide us through how he has branded his managed services and tell us how this branding has helped him differentiate himself from other managed service providers. Questions are strongly encouraged throughout today's discussion. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's webinar, but you may submit the questions as we go along, and we will try to address your questions on the fly. Let's see. So now let me introduce Antonio. Okay, let's see here. Antonio Stroman is the president and founder of the Brass Effect, which has been providing managed IT services for just over 6 years. Like many MSPs, the Brass Effect started as a 1- or 2-person shop with a handful of customers and a notion that they had the expertise to run a successful business. Through trial and error, Antonio is confident that the Brass Effect has found its niche in compliance with great partners and a message that is relevant to the market today. Antonio, thanks for joining us and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go through. Before I turn over, Antonio, why don't we first just start out, if you would, tell us a little bit about your company, how you guys got started, and that sort of thing.
Sure. So we got started back in 2009. As a managed service provider, not necessarily knowing exactly what we wanted to do. So we actually started with monitoring. We also started, with the on-site support and the kind of the typical stuff that, a lot of us MSPs go out there and do. A lot of us were, inside of, an office working with those guys. And then, we knew that, hey, I think I can kind of do this on my own. And that's basically how we were born. We started, with, like I said, a handful of clients. I think we actually started about three clients that we started with. And so over the years, we kind of grown and kind of figured out, kind of where our niche was. There's a lot of competition in the MSP market. And over the last, I'd say, 3 years, we've really started to focus on compliance and kind of in line with a lot of the healthcare changes as far as the new healthcare law. And once it kind of, they determined that it was going to be a law and wasn't going to be repealed. So we really started digging our heels into that and reading the law and understanding, and also understanding, what opportunities were going to be presented to our current clients and our potential clients. So, with that, we actually went through and we learned a ton about compliance. And we started searching throughout the marketplace for different partners that we could partner with as well. And we came across the Anchor solution. We liked what we saw, and we figured that it would be a great solution to kind of become a part of what we do. And at this point, it's going really well with the Anchor/Access product. We're very proud of it. We're very proud of the support that we get through Anchor with the product. And I tell you what, every day it's just growing more and more. So we're very happy with where we are right now. And like I said, we also, which is labeled here, we concentrate a lot on the medical facilities. We do a little bit with PCI as far as the financial industry is concerned, but mainly we concentrate on the medical institutions.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about, just how you do branding in general for your clients. I mean, is the Axis brand name like your product line brand that you use across for different types of services?
Yeah. So what we did was that we decided there had to be a way to infiltrate the healthcare marketplace, and we knew that there are products like the box and your Dropbox, and we kind of piggybacked on what Anchor was doing, and what we tried to do was focus more on what we needed to do in terms to make ourselves attractive to that particular marketplace. And so all of our messaging, the majority of our messaging, I would say, on our Axis website is really focused on letting people understand about the law, what's out there, and basically what they need to do. And as I was saying before, one of the things we do is we try to make people address their own mortality in this business. And because they don't understand it, then we run into a lot of people who have a mentality that, well, this will never happen to me. And so we actually, we put articles out there, and we're trying to show them, no, this is happening. And what we do is we use the Axis product as a way. It's almost like a doorway for us, because as a managed service provider, you want a way in, because once you get in, that gives you a way to sell more of your managed services. Right. And so in our case, that's what we've done to get into that particular vertical, and it's been pretty successful so far. To the point where people are finding us. We don't do a ton of marketing at all on our site. People are finding us. And the good thing about the Axis/Anchor product is once it's out there, and it's like anything else, where in the MSP market, referrals are huge. But with the Anchor product, well, when people start sharing files and they start creating guest accounts, it starts doing its own referral marketing. And right. So then people want to find out more about the product, and they come to the site, they start looking at it, and then when they realize that they're probably in the same boat as a lot of the people that we feature on our site, that's kind of a call to action for them to actually do something about it.
Great, and I think it's kind of a good lead-in, giving that background on what you're doing with Axis CloudSync. It's a good lead into the kind of discussion around branding. If you have a unique brand name, as you run in, your existing clients start using the solution, and then they can easily reference it because it's consistently branded. And I think what I wanted to do in the next couple minutes is just kind of share some of my personal perspectives on some of the challenges MSPs face today. And why branding is so important, and partnering with vendors who believe in helping MSPs build their own brands, right? Because not every vendor, kind of shares that perspective or point of view. But if you look at the market today, I mean, the general landscape, the challenge is how do you build a thriving, growing business that has really attractive margins and hence cash flow? And on the hardware and software front, product margins, they've been compressed. They've been compressed for a long time. We're now going on, 7 or 8 years, or 6 or 7 years since the last really big recession and downturn. Margins took another massive hit during that last Great Recession, and they really haven't recovered. And that's really not a sustainable area for any managed service provider to really, get a lot of cash flow. I mean, product can be important. It can be a important component. It is something that drags you into a lot of engagements. It's hardware refreshes or just infrastructure refreshes or something that can drag clients into a more enlightened approach to managing their IT infrastructure, but it's not really where you make the money. Now, the second bullet point here is that I think even in the managed services space today, you've got to be careful, because even things that are traditional managed service offerings, margins are under threat. That same profit margin compression will happen with services as well over time. Now, there are a lot of vendors out there that are building their brand name with the end user market specifically, but you can almost guarantee, no matter what, if that vendor's building the brand name directly with the end user, they're going to share a lot less of the value with their channel partners. It's just the nature of the beast. We're not criticizing anybody for doing it that way. We just have a different approach. We think the right go-to-market strategy in the MSP market is to help the MSPs build their own brand. So for the brass effect, to build the Access brand name around your services portfolio. And if you do that, you are able to stand out from the crowd, create a differentiated service offering, get those really positive word-of-mouth effects that Antonio just was referencing. And, it's like if we just back up a moment and just think about when we say branding, what do we really mean? And I've got a couple quotes here I just want to share and then discuss. But the first one is, a successful branding program is based on the concept of singularity. It creates in the mind of the prospect the perception that there's no other product on the market quite like your product. And another comment, this one's from Donald Trump, who's an indisputable business leader today, really. If your business is not a brand, it's a commodity. And I think I think, Antonio, your comments were pretty appropriate. What you guys are building is a sync and share and collaboration service that's purpose-built for the medical vertical, right? So you're able to do all the marketing and messaging around what clients who are in the medical vertical need to be concerned about and care about as they start computing across different kinds of devices, as the mobility infrastructure gets more complex, as doctors want to start using iPads and their iPhones and other devices to actually deliver patient care. You got to worry about all that data, and you've got to properly configure Anchor in a unique way so that it is HIPAA compliant, so that it meets all of the compliance requirements that the medical vertical needs to face. And every one of these vertical markets has its own unique set of kind of compliance and data privacy and workflow challenges. And so I think you're to be commended for really taking this vertical strategy and then using branding as a way to really create a unique product offering that if you're a doctor in Texas, you're a go-to place to go for file sync that's properly configured for a medical environment. So just a couple other comments around branding before I turn it back over to Antonio to talk about how he's actually going out and engaging with clients with his Access CloudSync product offering. But why is branding important? Branding it helps. It gives you a point of differentiation. If you first of all, you need to be consistent. So you come up with a naming convention and you have all of your different products and services under an umbrella, a brand umbrella. You could have product line brands, or you can have a company brands that have sub-brands. The choice is yours. The consistency is key, though, is you need to have the consistent color scheme, the consistent naming convention, the consistent font types, the consistent logo sets. All of these things are quite important. And if you build up brand value, you're going to build up value in different parts of your business. If you're trying to figure out in a couple of years if you want to maybe sell your company, branding is very important, because if you're merely a reseller of Box, if you're merely a reseller of Microsoft software services, then you're a dime a dozen. You haven't created unique value. But to create unique value, you have got to build up the client base. You've got to build up the recurring revenue. You've got to do it in a profitable way. But brand is one of those key pillars of building value for your company and other stakeholders. And your brand should have a promise. You should have kind of a mission in life that's something more aspirational than just helping people with their IT. I think the MSPs that we see doing a really great job with branding, they take it to the next level. It's not just about helping people with their IT and making sure everything works correctly. It's about helping them serve their clients better, helping them grow their revenues and succeed, help your clients achieve their mission with technology. So you really got to take your brand promise is taking taking the mundane part of what we do, which is the technology, and really saying, well, what does it allow us to do? And taking it to another level and then attaching a unique identity to that. And any MSP can do this today. It doesn't require a PhD in marketing. It requires first of all, just some standard, some simplification of things. You have to establish your own identity. You should hire a professional designer to give you that standardized look, but it's really about just being consistent and making sure that your product offerings fit within a brand framework. And then once you've done that, then you're able to really take things to the next level. You're able to go deep on a vertical market, for instance. So in the case of the Brass Effect, you guys focus on the medical vertical, and you're able to start building a name, if you will, in that vertical market in a local market. And once you've built up that brand name, the other beauty is you can start adding additional services. So we get the question all the time, people say, well, how do I sell a sync and share solution? There's free alternatives out there on the market. And the answer is, well, first of all, the free alternatives are highly insecure, uncontrollable. They don't have the hooks that MSPs need to actually deploy and manage and monitor them and keep the data secure. And they don't let you put your own brand name on it. So if you've established an umbrella brand for your company, adding additional service offerings becomes much simpler. You can keep adding additional capabilities to your managed services portfolio and cross-sell them and upsell your existing clients to these additional service offerings if you've created a brand framework. So you can add in additional value over time and add more product lines and services. So I want to encourage everyone, if you've got questions, to please just drop them into the Q&A log on the GoToMeeting, and we will try to address your questions on the fly. But with that, Antonio, let me kind of turn it over to you and give you the floor to talk more about what you've done with Anchor and how you've branded things and how you use that approach to drive more client business.
Okay. Next slide. So for the guys that actually come to the site, you'll see we've integrated what Anchor has put out within their partner kits and some of the other materials as far as the videos. So we're using the information that they have to craft what we currently show, because one of the things we wanted to do was integrate their messaging into our messaging, and then use some of that material to actually illustrate the point that we're really trying to drive home, which is, hey, you guys can sync with us. Hey, you have a secure solution, and actually thinking about the systems that are out there for free. But I can tell you that, especially in the medical vertical, these guys can't touch free stuff. And a lot of people that actually come to us, they come to us especially from a Dropbox type solution where they know that that particular solution is not compliant. And so this is where actually knowing the law in terms of what HIPAA states, then you're actually able to play off of that. Because a lot of times people, when they're taking action and they're actually looking at these solutions, they're looking for people who are kind of speaking their language. And when we know what they're looking for, that's kind of what we accentuate on our particular site. And we're going out there giving them a comfort level to say, hey, I think I might want to choose this solution. And then what we use, the way that we use the Anchor solution is that we know that our job is to get people into the system. And then we have confidence in the Anchor solution to know that, hey, once we get these people in, that we have a great solution that's going to do everything that they need to do. We just need to let them know that it's out there. And so, from the material that's here and also talking about the infrastructure that's out there and how the platform that their data is going to be sitting on, giving them a real comfort level so that they understand, what they're looking at and what they're getting themselves into. And so we've used the branding to really establish ourselves as a competitor to any of the other solutions that are out there. And we do our metrics. We kind of know where we stand. We know, how we sit in terms of like a box or some of those other solutions. And a lot of times people will come to us because we're speaking their language as far as, healthcare. And a lot of times those are the things that actually tip the scales in our favor.
So tell me this, Antonio, question came in from Taylor, and he or she wants to know, does the Brass Effect resell the SaaS version of Anchor or the private cloud version of Anchor?
The SaaS version.
Okay, great. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. So client example, the chiropractor case.
Okay, so in this particular case, there's actually a billing company, and this particular company, they service companies from all over the country. And what they do is that their information is being shared, and they needed a way to be able to comply in a compliant way, have their doctor offices send their information into them so they can actually bill. Well, email was the way to go, but the law tells you, it says that it's okay if they send you something through email, but the thing is that they're supposed to use it for the purpose intended and then delete it. On so many occasions, what you find out is that information is sent back and forth, and it just sits in people's inboxes. And it sits there, and it sits there. Well, the fact that the information is sitting there, that makes that particular client not compliant. And by them being not compliant, we are actually able to go in and show them and tell them what the law says. And by telling them what the law stated, then that gave them the unction to actually move. And so when we presented the access solution, we're telling them, hey, here's another way through our team shares where, hey, you get these guys to use it on their end, and you guys have it set up on your end, and you never have to go through that process. Now that you know that your data is encrypted all the way through transit and at rest, and so what they found out was that basically using the information that we got through Anchor to, knowing how we wanted to craft our message, knowing that what we were saying, we were confident in what we were saying because we had the material coming in that we basically just kind of mixed into what we were presenting. And so this particular client right now, they have over 75 accounts and growing. And they've basically made it a part of what they do. They put it in their business associate agreements, so they're letting everybody know that, hey, if you're going to do business with us, these are the products that we use, and this is how we use them. So for us, it becomes one of those things, as they add clients, then basically that's a new client for us as well. And so in this particular case, it's been one of those things where once you get it introduced, then it kind of starts self-feeding.
Okay. Tell us
Next
about
slide.
the accounting firm.
Okay. So in this case, the accounting firm. Now, these guys were looking for a PCI. They needed a PCI solution. And so we actually start reading the law in the GLBA, which basically stated how information is supposed to be transferred back and forth. Once again, so this is where we entered into the solution, and we were kind of telling them, hey, these are some of the things that you guys need to be doing. And in particular, in their case, we actually had a situation where they used to send tax information back and forth. And they would go through the process of creating an Adobe, PDF file, securing that file. And so what happens, what that led us into introducing them to a solution where, hey, guess what? We have a secure transfer feature where the only thing that you guys actually have to do is be able to go in, create your file. And we showed them how they could transfer the information securely, and it creates a guest account automatically where it automatically generates the password. And as I was stating to the eFolder, is like one of the things that happened out of that was one of the partners came up to us, and I asked him, say, hey, how's that solution going? How's it working for you? And he told me, he said, man, let me tell you. He said it was great because he was actually getting feedback from his customers that wanted to thank them for protecting their privacy. And in that, he and I had a conversation, and he was like, man, he said, he said, I didn't even think about it like that until this was introduced. And now, we start to wonder what would happen to us if our system did get compromised. And that was a situation where he really started to think about his mortality as a company, and what would it do to them if they were hacked or if somehow the data was compromised. And so that led to us basically, and this is where, the system kind of, this is like an introduction into other services. So now we're putting together a quote for them for a brand new server, also new firewall, and all those other things that we like as MSPs to be able to go in there and kind of introduce. And, one of his statements was, hey, I'll be your biggest cheerleader on this stuff. Because the way that we see this, we have over 700 clients. And with those 700 clients, if somehow, these guys get together, if we're hacked or something like that, he said, our business is done. So that became, just that little introduction became one of those things where now it turns into something that, we're talking about a little product. Now it leads to over $20,000 additional dollars in business.
Right, and I think kind of the point of the discussion earlier around brand is, your brand in his mind means security, because you're not just reselling some sync and share solution that you're then not managing. You're deploying something, teaching the client how to use the advanced functionality in the product to do secure collaboration, secure sharing, and then in their minds, when they think the Brass Effect or the Access brand, they think security. These guys get security, and so when we think about how branding leads to additional cross-sell and upsell opportunities and product line extension, that's a great example of here you've been able to turn a sync and share deployment of one product line into a bunch more product and project income for your organization.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the third client example of where you've taken the Access CloudSync product.
Okay, so in this particular solution, we, like I said, we utilize heavily all the stuff that Anchor puts out there, and the ability to offer a free trial is how we've kind of structured the site that says, hey, if you like what you see, hey, try us out. So over basically over a weekend, we had someone that tried us out, and they just start uploading a ton of data. So over the weekend, they had roughly uploaded over 100 gigs of data. And we were like, wow, I wonder who this client is. Prospect is, I should say. And, over that, we actually got a call that Monday, and they told us kind of what had happened. They said that they were using Dropbox, and somehow their data had got corrupted in Dropbox. And they were immediately looking for another solution. So they had been looking around, and they found our solution. They found something that was really, it appeared as that, it was within the medical arena, and that's what they were looking for. And what they do in that location is very sensitive, and so they wanted, as a matter of fact, at that time we were still focusing on the 448-bit encryption, and they liked that. And so it wasn't even we didn't have to do anything to sell that client. All of our messaging did it, and I think we've probably heard from those guys twice. They've been a customer over 8 months now, and I think at this point they're over 300 gigs of data uploaded.
Great. Antonio, so John asked a question, just kind of if we go back to the second example, can you just talk a little bit about how a secure file share works? Like what just on a very practical level, how do secure shares work? What are some of the capabilities that the user has to, control how that content gets shared? And how is how does an accounting type organization use it to share things like like tax documents and other things that you would want to be highly secure?
Well, in a lot of those types of clients, like I said, a lot of folks are using your Adobe PDFs, and a lot of us know we can go out there on the internet and find a file cracker that'll open up a PDF file, no issues. And the thing to be telling about encryption is that going from even back at the 448-bit before we went 256-bit, find me some encryption that has actually been cracked. And in a lot of cases, most cases, no one has actually shown me anything with the 448 or the 256-bit being hacked. And so it's the same thing that we also instruct them, because it's more, ours is not just one single thing, because we say, hey, guess what? If you guys have data on your PCs as far as PCI is concerned, PHI is concerned, that needs to be encrypted as well. So our whole process, we're going through a process of getting them accustomed to encryption and why it's protection. And then we back that up with the law. So we'll say, hey, guess what? The law tells you this. The law says that if you have a machine, and if that machine is encrypted and it's stolen, then you don't have to report it. And when you just basically tell them information based off of what the law says, now you're bringing their comfort level really up. And so they have a comfort in understanding what encryption does. And so we never have to go through the process of telling them about bits and bytes and all that stuff. we lay it out based off what the law says, and the law says if you're doing this and if you're using this type of encryption, then that's acceptable. And when you can show them, what they need to see without getting into all the technical details of it, that seems to work a whole lot better. Because a lot of times, in my experience, if you start getting into all the details, eyes are glazed over, and people they're focusing on the words that they really are trying to hear.
Yeah, and I think, though, just to kind of give a more kind of layman's description, though, of how a secure share might work. So, I think if you look in the market today, there are just a ton of like professional service accounts where people are still sending sensitive documents via email. And as Antonio mentioned, in a HIPAA setting, that's an inappropriate use of email because you can't control whether the file gets deleted after it's been used. There's all sorts of problems with email being the way to transfer and send files around. The way a secure share would work in the context of, say, an accountant or even in a medical setting, you take the file you're trying to send and you invite the third party to a secure share of that file. And what we do is the file is already encrypted in the cloud, and what you've now done is created a password-enforced access to that file for the recipient. And so a guest account gets created for the recipient who's, say, accessing a tax document. And then they've got basically like a secure, password-protected collaboration space that they have with their accountant. So the accountant, what they can do is they can first force the recipient of the file to create a username and password for the file. They can limit the number of times it gets downloaded. They can prohibit or allow the user to upload to a folder in that area and collaborate further. So oftentimes, if you're working on tax documents, you have a lot of sensitive documents going back and forth. The other way to use a secure share is you take a folder and you share the folder, and the guest users you can give them permission to upload content into the folder. So on the one hand, the accountants, receiving all this content from their client and producing the tax documents and then dropping off the files back into that folder, and then this guest user who doesn't need a license can then access this secure share area. So that's how secure shares work. I mean, they basically create dynamic, on-the-fly collaboration space that the sender of the file can control in various ways, and it's just a far more secure way of doing collaboration between third parties than email or other, FTP or other ways of transferring files. So hopefully that answers the question about how a secure share might work in a, sensitive professional services or medical type arena. So with that, so three different examples of how the brass effect, Antonio's business, is branding Access CloudSync and using it in these different client scenarios to drive, well north of 200 seats of Anchor into the market. And then, Antonio, can you talk a little bit about how you price and package and what kind of profit margins you're making?
Well, basically, we went out and we did our research. We found, the heavy hitters that were out there, and we didn't want to, try to compete on price. And the thing is that a lot of times people associate, value with price. And what we were doing, we were saying, you know what, we think this is a great product. We think it's, it's up there with any other solutions that are out there. We're confident in it. So we figured, hey, we wanted the choice to be based off of a solution in terms of what people were actually looking for and instead of price. And so we pretty much priced it close to, what the box would do or what a Dropbox would do. And in turn, it's worked for us because now, people are not saying, of course you're going to have people that just, okay, well, this one is the cheaper one. And those are not necessarily the people that we actually want. And so the people that we want the A and B customers. And if someone is just trying to find something because they want something cheap, then that's not who we actually try to cater to. What we try to do is make people understand, what are we saving you from? And the thing is when they see that and we say, hey, our solution can actually save you from a HIPAA fine. And when you think that the HIPAA fines can actually go up to $1.5 million, now, do you want to entrust, the fact that you may get a fine off of a free solution, or do you want something that's actually speaking your language? And so that's kind of how we focus, and that's how we focus on that particular market. And so we feel that our pricing is fair, it's competitive to anything that's out there, and we want people to choose the Access solution based off of, if it's actually satisfying a need that they actually have within their organization, and that's what works for us. And what's stated here on the graphic, currently we're probably making about 77% margin per account on our solution.
Right, and so, I think that's a great point. If you've created a business class offering that solves security and compliance challenges, that's helping clients avoid the risks and massive fines that can ensue, you're not competing against free. You're competing in the enterprise class, highly secure end of the market, and you can charge $15, $20, $25 per user per month for a business-grade sync solution that's properly configured and properly managed, and that allows you to drive recurring gross margins in the 70 to 75% range like the Brass Effect is doing. So, eFolder, we price Anchor to partners starting at $10 per user per month wholesale, and it goes down from there based upon the number of seats that you have licensed with us. And as your volume grows, your price goes down naturally, and as your base of business grows, the amount of cash flow you can drive in this one particular product line goes up. So before we go into a couple more branding topics, one more question came in. So John wants to know, to follow up, is it my understanding that the encryption stops once the file leaves Anchor, so it's encrypted on the remote? So is it encrypted on the remote device? I think that's one important thing that you need to realize is that we encrypt in a file sync solution like Anchor. We encrypt the data when it's in transit, moving from point A to point B. So from say a laptop computer that just created a new file that may have sensitive data to the cloud, and then we encrypt it in the cloud. And then once that data, though, is decrypted and in use by a properly authorized endpoint, the data then is decrypted and accessible to that endpoint. So it is important as as the number of types and variety and volume of endpoints proliferates, it is important to think through your full disk encryption strategy that you're using on endpoints. Depending on the vertical, depending on the requirement, the particular compliance requirements, you don't need to necessarily have full disk encryption on every kind of device, but you do need things like two-factor authentication, you do need remote wipe, you do need the ability to password protect the actual application that's accessing the files, and you of course need, when you're moving content around, you need it encrypted. But it is important to think through when content does get synced to, let's call it fat clients, like robust endpoint computers, Macs, Windows, servers, especially with mobile laptops, you probably should have, in addition, full disk encryption implemented, and that's a set of functionality that's beyond what's available in Anchor. So that's usually a third-party add-on. You can use the native encryption, full disk encryption capability that's in the Windows operating system as an example. But let's kind of wrap up and let's go to more of your questions. So anything's fair game, folks. How to price and package Anchor, how to win new clients, any questions you have for Antonio or me around branding. But one thing I want to, Antonio mentioned this, that they have been big users of the eFolder playbooks. So playbooks, eFolder has 3 playbooks out. We're introducing our 4th playbook in the next couple days on business continuity. We have 2 different playbooks that address the Anchor area. And a playbook is an end-to-end marketing tool that has literally scores of different marketing assets that are delivered to you in a private label fashion, white label fashion. So brochures, white papers, diagrams, PowerPoint presentations with screenshots and diagrams that you can import into Microsoft Word, into PowerPoint, into any graphics program. Really simple to, rebrand and utilize in your own marketing materials. We've tried to make this kind of like marketing paint by the numbers. And, email copy, you name it, it's in these playbooks. And what's so thrilling to us really is we're seeing great traction and adoption of these playbooks, where all the time we'll go out to websites, to blogs, we'll be copied on email campaigns. We'll go out and actually visit with partners and see their marketing materials that they're arming their salespeople with. And people are using these playbooks and using the canned content. So that's what a playbook is. It's all of this content is designed under the premise that you, our partner, are going to take eFolder services, Anchor, Backup, BDR, Cloud Finder, Double Check, you name it, which eFolder service, you're going to take it and put your own name on it, put your own brand identity on it, put it into your own marketing method. And that's what the playbooks are. Highly encourage you to access them. They are available on the Partner Center. We will also be sending copies of the playbooks out to everybody, links to the playbooks. Pardon me. After today's webinar, we've got 3 that are addressing the Anchor product area, 1 on Cloud Finder, and then we're coming out with 1 on business continuity very shortly. So with that, what questions do you all have around branding? I mean, what keeps you awake at night? Where are you having struggles? What advice can we give? Give it a second here to percolate. Antonio, I guess I would ask, what are some of your other service offerings? I mean, what are the other areas that you really specialize in for the medical vertical?
Well, another partner that we have, they actually can go out. There's a solution that we have that is actually cloud-based. And what we do is that, if we find someone who we can see a need, and we can tell they're not compliant at all. And in most cases, what you find out is a lot of times they have no idea where to start, because HIPAA is so huge. And what we've done for them is we've kind of pared down. We tell them, hey, we give them pretty much, like I said, a color by number. This is where you start. These are the things that you need to do. These are how often you actually need to, run a risk assessment analysis on your organization. If you find something, these are the things that need to be fixed. And so we go just simple, just that way. And like I said, we use the Access product. And a lot of times what happens is it kind of leads us to, as I say, more business. Because, once you become trusted in that particular area, now folks have an understanding that, okay, well, maybe you guys, what do you know about this? And have you ever heard of that scenario? Because I've gotten into some pretty deep conversations with people who call in, and they have specific HIPAA questions. And like I said, because we, pretty much read the law, we can, they get a good comfort level with us. And so when it goes to, leading into other conversations, and are you guys doing this? And maybe we recommend you take a look at this type of solution, then it's a pretty easy sell from that point.
Yeah, so deep assessments are a great way to educate clients. If you have tools, any tool you can drop into a client environment and say, and then have a risk-based conversation is critical. One of the ways that we get often asked, what's the best way to sell Anchor? And our argument is it's a 1-2 punch. It's a security plus productivity conversation. Because if somebody doesn't care about security, if you have clients, end users, clients who don't care about security, they should go use the free version of Dropbox. But I would ask you, if you've got clients who don't care about security, why are they your clients? That's the real test, right? And if you do have clients, all of your clients should care about data privacy. They should care about security. They should care about their networks getting infected with consumer-grade technologies. And another great assessment tool is using your RMM tool, whether you use Kaseya or LabTech or what have you, to actually understand, for instance, the scope of, infection, if you will, of the network of consumer-grade Dropbox. So you can use your RMM tool to actually go in and assess a client environment and discover how many endpoints in this client environment are they using a consumer-grade sync solution that's potentially jeopardizing patient privacy, corporate data, intellectual property. And we've had some MSPs that have truly had some kind of jaw-dropping type experiences using their RMM tools. I mean, even, MSPs that are like really sophisticated shops, big SonicWall shops, they're using SonicWall and OpenDNS, and they're using all this sophisticated technology, but the endpoints aren't locked down very tight, and there's these very leaky consumer-grade sync solutions on all these machines. And we had one MSP, he manages 3,000 endpoints, and he's a big Kaseya shop, big SonicWall shop, and he discovered that like fully one-third of all the endpoints in his client base had consumer-grade Dropbox on it. So his strategy to go in upsell all of his clients to a business-grade sync solution to use the Anchor product, his calling card was take the 10 clients or 20 clients that have the biggest problem and go in and have a risk-based conversation with them about their current exposure. And then, but at the same time, that's the first punch. The other punch is, look, users want to be productive. Doctors want to use their iPads. Doctors want to use their iPhones. Every knowledge worker in the American economy wants to use mobile sync technology, right? But you've got to do it in a secure way. And so that's the second punch, is you go in with a business-grade sync solution that allows them to sync to their mobile devices, do secure shares, as we reviewed in a couple of the case studies that Antonio shared. Run a business and do it in a secure way, and collaborate with content, but do it with security. And then partner with a vendor like eFolder, who gives you the tools to put your own name on it and package it yourself, price it how you want, and market it how you want under your own brand name, and then gives you the tools to actually go out there and do it. So with that, any final questions? Okay, well, we hope we've inspired, whether you're an existing partner or somebody considering doing business with eFolder, we hope we've inspired you to think about how you're taking your solutions to market, how you're building your own brand name. Hopefully we shared with you some new tools that you may not have known about, and hopefully some ideas on how to go out and promote the sync and share category. Antonio, thanks a lot for sharing your experience. We really appreciate the partnership.
Yes, thank you guys.
Okay, and everybody else, thank you guys for making the time today. Have a great week. Have a great July 4th. This is Ted Hulsy with eFolder, signing off from the Partner Chat. Thanks, everybody. Take care now.